Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Issei trained by Madara part 1. Before I start, please do support for more awesome content and subscribe my channel and like this video and also share this video with your friends. I have created my other videos playlist, there you can watch my all videos easily, check out as well. Let's start this video. Hashirama was standing over Madara. I guess my dream has died while yours lives won, proof enough that it was the better of the two. Hashirama shook his head and said, despite all the pain that you have caused me, I still would like to think of you as my comrade. Madara looked up as his vision began to cloud. As comrades, well, if that's how we will. Madara died before he could finish these words. Hashirama looked over his dead body sadly, he knew Madara could have done so much had he not been fooled by Black Zetsu. Madara woke within the realm between life and death. He now stood before the Sage of Six Paths himself. You're just mad because I copied your right. Madara's tone was haughty, he had already died 3 times. No, I am disappointed in you. The sage's voice sounded gentle and kind, vexed Madara to no end. He knew he couldn't use Izanagi, not with the 4 Hokage and every other cage spirit standing or floating around his corpse. If you're not mad, then why am I here, not to mention aren't you out there? Madara pointed in a vague direction that just meant the real world. I can be in more than one place at any given time, unlike you. Madara cringed at these words, true, if he could be in more than one place at any given time he would have used Izanagi and brought himself back, again. So, if you're not mad, then why am I here? Are you going to deal out some sort of divine punishment upon my soul? At this the Sage of Six Paths smiled, answering in a way yes. Now Madara had heard it all. What are you going to do, kill me, or more like, bring me back so they can kill me again? Madara was laughing as he said this, what the hell can he do to me? I mean, I am dead, again. The Sage of Six Paths smiled again and said, no Madara, your punishment must be far more severe. Now Madara stopped laughing and looked at the old man, a godlike thing. Is that so? I mean, it's not like I haven't brought myself back from the dead before. Now the Sage of Six Paths chuckled and gave him a mischievous smile. Yes, Madara, that is true, but this time I am the one who will be bringing you back. So you are going to get all of them to curb stomp me. Madara said this with haughty words as he thought he knew now what the godlike thing was going to do. No, but you will wish you never listened to the Black Zetsu. Madara looked at the Sage of Six Paths with a serious look on his face. I already regret that, I mean it's not like he didn't kill me or steal my power or ruin my utopia. The Sage of Six Paths let out another laugh and said, you will wish you were one of the good guys, or just did not use Izanagi. Madara saw wicked glee in the eyes of the old man god thing. You for real? I mean, what are you going to do to me? The Sage of Six Paths said again, like I said, I will bring you back, just you will wish you stayed dead, the first time. Now Madara felt for the first time in his life, other than when Black Zetsu stabbed, a sense of dread. Do you fear Madara? Well, you will fear, and most probably revel at what is going to happen to you. Now Madara looked at the sage and said, can you elaborate that last part for me? No, you'll find out when you awake. The world in Madara's eyes grew dark until a light pierced it. He was now standing in some form of a hospital. There was a small child sitting in a chair looking sadly at 2 people on life support. When are mom and dad going to wake up? The kid had not yet realized that Madara was next to him. Madara looked down at the child and said, you yourself should wake up to reality, your parents are dying, get out of the illusion that they will wake up. They were harsh words for a child to hear, but Madara was not known for his kindness. He just stood there with the kid as the light on the machine slowly flickered, then died. The kid's parents were dead. The kid was about to break out in tears when Madara put his hand over the child's mouth. Shedding tears for the dead is pointless, they can't feel, see or hear you. Madara could tell he was not in the shinobi world anymore. The child was now trying to fight off Madara's hand. Madara removed it and said, tell me your name. It was not a request but a command. The kid, trying to wipe away his tears, said, it's Issei Hyodo. In Madara's mind he thought that name sounds bad. But he instead said, now Issei, I am Madara Uchiha, since no one here I guess you're an orphan. The boy nodded at this. Come with me, I will make you stronger. The boy nodded and followed Madara. Chapter 1. It had been 10 years since Madara had taken him under his wing. Those 10 years were filled with hard training and some type of transplants. Issei had agreed to all of them without question, his eyes were changed, and part of his chest was as well. He had never asked Madara what his chest was made out of, but Madara had no hesitation in telling him. You have my eye, I have my dear brothers, I will teach you to use them well. It had been hard but worthwhile for him. Madara was a harsh but powerful teacher. He had taught him every ninjutsu, taijutsu and jinjutsu that he knew Issei could handle. But he also would make Issei perform a test of the mind, making him solve real-life issues and playing shogi to teach him tactics. Madara himself stayed in Issei's old house when they were in the city. Now that Issei was 16, he decided that Issei could now go back into the world he was born in. Madara had enrolled him in a local school called Kuo Academy. It was said to be very prestigious and for the best. Madara just wished he could see the faces of the fools who ran it when Issei's results returned. It goes without saying that he passed his test with flying colors. Actually, that would be an understatement. Issei Hyodo passed the test so well that they waived all his school fees. This made Madara's life easier as he did not need to fork out money he did not earn for the school. Issei himself wasn't too excited about it. During his time with Madara he had come somewhat aloof from the world. Even as he was getting change for the first day he asked, "Is it really required for me to go there? I mean, what can they teach me that you can't?" Madara, who was eating breakfast, looked at Issei and said, "They can teach you many things, none of which can make you stronger." Issei came down from his room and said, "That's my point exactly." Madara did not even look at him and said, "I have a feeling that things will get more interesting." Issei sighed as he ate his breakfast and then began to walk to school. Stupid school, as if Madara could not teach me everything already. Making his way to the school, Issei noticed to his horror that there were many women, or rather girls, at this school. An image of Madara laughing evilly flashed into his head. That magnificent bastard. He knew now why Madara had made him come here. Slowly walking into the school he saw how at least every second girl would glance at him and then shyly look away. Thanks to all that training with Madara he was in peak physical condition and he was not short. I will find a way to get him back for this. He must be laughing and doing something I rather not know about right now. Madara himself was at that moment busy casting Jinjutsu on the landlord. Issei did not know what class he was in, so when the school bell rang, he simply walked around to find his class. After the process of elimination he found his one. The teacher did not look in the least impressed that he was late on the first day. "Hi, I'm Issei Hyodo, is this the class I am meant to be in?" The teacher nodded and all the other students whispered as he entered the classroom. "You do know it has been 12 minutes since the bell rang for class. Where you have been?" Issei knew only one line to say this. "Sorry, at first I could not find hell, but now I'm here." The teacher did not know what to say and Issei took a seat next to the window. "If I play my cards right I can use camouflage jutsu and sneak out of this place." He dismissed that thought because Madara would make him come back here. The teacher at this point asked Issei to step forward and introduce himself to the class. Issei decided to have a little fun and said, "Hi, I already said my name so you know who I am. My hobbies are well and short stuff I do. What do I dream of? Well, I don't know, I just sleep. I look forward to enjoying our time together." At this point all the girls blushed and all the boys sighed in contempt. Issei sighed. This was really going to be a long day. The school day went slow and lunch break approached. Issei suddenly recalled, "Damn it, Madara, I forgot my lunch. Wait, do I even eat lunch?" Searching through his memory he could not recall having lunch. Wow, yet another useless thing they do that I don't. Why do they need to eat anyway? It's not like they do anything. He was right, most of the kids just sat around and listened. Sure, it was boring, but it did not consume that much energy. Slumped over his desk, she heard a voice asking him, If you don't mind, could I take the seat next to you?" Issei sat up, looked at her and said, "It's not my seat, go ahead." She nodded her head in thanks and sat down next to him. Issei returned to his slumped position and closed his eyes. He did not expect her to speak again. Don't you have any lunch to eat at all?" Issei now sat up again, he turned his face to look at her. She looked about his age or a year younger, had white hair and yellow-like eyes. Issei did not know why, but she kind of reminded him of a cat. "No, I don't have lunch." He was about to return to the slumped position again when she asked, Do you want some of mine?" Issei looked at her. Madara had always taught him to be so grateful when people offer him something. "Thank you for the offer, but I am not really hungry." He could feel her gaze at him and said, "Sorry, I didn't mean to be rude." She shook her head and said, "No, it's just that I think I have seen you before you came here." Issei dismissed that in his mind and said, "Well, yes, I do live locally, so you may have seen me around." She nodded. "Don't you live alone with your mother?" Issei would have smiled evilly at this, but he knew his life was worth more than this. "Actually, he's a man and he is like my adopted father." The little girl did take note that he said father-like. "Oh, where are my manners? I am Issei Hyodo, it's a pleasure." She smiled gently and replied, "I'm Kaneko Taoju." Without warning, Issei just said, "I hate to say this, but you are a very good actor." Smiling and closing his eyes, Issei said, "But it just so happens, so am I." As he opened his eyes, all emotion left his face. "You are here to gather information. I don't really care what you do, just I hate people pretending to be people they are not." Standing up now and pushing his chair and he waved at her while his back was turned, saying, "I think I will step out for a bit." Saying that he used camouflage jutsu as he walked out the door. The Kaneko Taoju, as she followed him out, it seemed as if he vanished into thin air. Issei saw her leave the classroom. When she did this he returned there and sat down. He released his jutsu and returned to his slumped position. What a drag, this school has its own factions. I really can't be bothered to join or ally with one. I wonder how long it will take for her to return here. Perhaps I should hide myself for now. Then he realized that lunch was soon to be over and there would be no point in him toying around. Madara said, interesting huh, well he should come here then, I am sure he will be happy to sit through all this. In the meantime, unknown to Issei, a red-haired young woman, one of the two supposed beauties of Kuo Academy, was sitting in her clubroom. Haneko had just reported the events of lunch to her. So, it seems that he just up and vanished as soon as he left the classroom. The small white-haired girl nodded. Ria-sama, seems this man you got your eye on plays hard to get. The one who said this was the other of the two beauties, Akeno Himejima. Perhaps you and I should approach him, or just you Akeno-san. The raven-haired beauty shook her head. I don't think looks are what it will take for him to notice us. Oh, and why is that? Ria's the red-haired asked her friend. Oh, simply because he has the look of an apathetic man, or at least was raised by one. Ria's noted that they had mistaken his caretakers as a woman, something that Kaneko had corrected. Well, in his words, according to cute little Kaneko, he said he was like his father. Akeno now looked at Ria's. He was able to see through Kaneko as a cute little act, perhaps we should withdraw for now. Ria's nodded that her friend was wise in this case. He had seen through Kaneko, also they had no idea how he did it. At this moment Issei was leaving the school grounds. He saw one singular thing out of place. The girl who was not from the school was standing waiting for someone. Well, I don't envy the person she is waiting for, but seriously, is she trying to make a scene? He was just about to walk past here when she said, will you go out with me? Issei turned to see who the lucky guy behind him was, but there were only girls there. Oh, so you swing that way, okay. He was about to continue walking when she said, I was talking to you. Issei spun on the spot and said, you were talking to me? He raised an eyebrow and eyed her, he could not see anything about. Well, this is interesting, I can't read her. Looking her up and down he said, sorry, I think you got the wrong guy here. She now shook her head. I knew you before when we were little, Issei-kun. Now he did remember that he was called that by a boy or a girl when his parents were still alive. Wait, hold up a sec, you came here to confess to a guy you saw last like more than 10 years ago. She nodded in Issei's mind. He was like, well shit, I just hope she does not end up like one of them, what demons in disguise who try to eat my soul or something. Looking at he said, well, I accept your contract, I'll go out with you. She squealed a little in joy. Thank you, can we meet here, I mean tomorrow for a date? Issei replied, sure, I will. In the back of his mind, well, I got to tell Madara this, wait, he'll ask if I want an award. Do you want me to walk you home? Issei asked this of her and she shook her head. No, you can tomorrow. Issei laws about when he stopped, wait, can you tell me your name at least? The girl smiled and said, it's Yuma Amano, see you tomorrow, Issei-kun. Well, that was interesting to say the least. I wonder if Madara will even listen to me, actually he won't. Walking home he noticed that the small actor girl was following him again. I should totally invite her in, I'm sure Madara will receive her warmly. He began to laugh softly as he thought of this, then he tilted his head back and said, hey you there, stalking lowly, you want to come in for tea? He got no reply, so he took it as a no and walked inside. Madara was eating his favorite food in Arazushi and said, do you like making a fool of yourself in public, that and what is a lowly? Just a term used to mock a girl who is, say, old enough but underdeveloped. Madara raised his head and looked at Issei. So you learn anything today, or at least meet anyone? Issei decided he should answer that and said, well yes, anyone to fight no, but there was this one girl, I could not read her like I could the others, I did not want to use these eyes just in case though. Now Madara was a little interested. So this girl, what is she called? Issei did get her name, so he replied Yuma Amano, though I do not really think that is her real name, she also asked me out and claimed to know me. Madara shook his head. No, you don't know anyone by that name, also what was it about that got your interest? If you say her body I will beat you. No kidding, Issei knew that he would not hold back, so he said. Well, she seemed to know a bit about my past, pre-you I mean also, I can't put my finger on it, but she was hiding something. Madara listened to his words then said, will you see her again? Issei nodded. Yeah, I agreed to go out with her. We will meet in front of the school when it ends tomorrow. Now Madara spoke again. Is it rather odd, your school had just finished, but she was at the school gates already. Madara was not inclining, he was saying it to Issei. Issei for his part said, oh shit, I did not think about that. Madara gave him an oh really nod. Was she in the same kind of uniform as you? Issei shook his head. Damn, you are right, I mean, why did I not notice that? To this Madara had a simple question. I am an old and powerful shinobi, and you are a brat, trained by me but still a brat. Hey Madara, did I also tell you that this strange cat-like girl was also following me home? Madara knew he was trying to change the subject and decided to play along. So she was the lowly that you spoke of? Issei nodded. Well, you see, she tried to speak to me during lunch break and I kinda told her I knew she was acting. Madara nodded in approval, he did not mind this. But I have the feeling that she was put up to it by someone, I mean the school must have factions within it. At that Madara had to say, well, I do not know why they would scout you, I mean by all descriptions you are meant to be a worthless boy. Madara knew how to sting someone with words, but so did Issei. I guess you're right, it is not like I have lived 3 lives and failed to achieve my goal or anything like that. Now Issei froze, the look that Madara gave him could have frozen over a Susanoo. I'll let that slide this time, you must remember that when around me the only thing you need to be afraid of is me. Issei nodded. He knew that Madara could be ruthless, actually he always was. We will see, or rather, you will find out from that girl if she is interesting, but if you do, I give you permission to use your A and S rank jutsu on her. Sighing and standing up, Madara said, but do try to find out some information from them first, just do your best not to completely fail. That was Madara's way of saying good luck and do well, it was also his way of saying, if you screw up you're in so much trouble. Thanks, I guess. Oh, by the way, what if she is not human? Madara looked at him and said, and that changes it. How? Beat her, take the information from her, do with her as you see fit. That was Madara's way of saying kill her or leave her, no anything else. Okay, what do I do about cat lolly girl? Madara raised an eyebrow and then smiled. Let her follow you, but call me. Issei noticed that Madara was smiling evilly. Issei took a mental note not to call him. The old war villain hero guy will find out in any case. Madara was too busy snickering evilly to notice that Issei was slowly leaving the room. Issei got to the door when Madara asked, it's dark, you have no friends and your training session hasn't begun, where do you think you're going? Issei forced a smile and said, I wanted to go catch a loli. It took Madara a whole 5 seconds before he was able to understand what Issei meant. Madara burst out in laughter. Ha 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 ha, just because you're the one who catches it doesn't mean I won't be the one to interrogate it. Issei looked at him and said, Madara, lay off the evil stuff, we don't have a 3-eyed freaking god-like guy popping up again. Madara looked at him. I may not like the guy, but you still show respect to the sage of 6 paths. Yeah, he is the one who lumped me with you. As Issei left, Madara said, right back at you. Issei responded, get a haircut, people mistake you for my mother. Madara bit back saying, why don't you let your hair grow like mine and Hashirama, maybe then you'll be half good as his little brother was. I thought you hated that guy. Issei asked this as he was about to close the door. Madara responded saying, past tense. Issei decided to close the door and go loli hunting. I'm going to catch a cute white-haired cat like one who refused to come in for tea. Smiling, he used the flying thunder god technique. Kaneko had no clue what it was that hit her, the last thing she saw was a flash and then darkness. Kaneko awoke to see a man clad in strange red armor with long spiky black hair. His most notable feature was his red eyes. They possessed 3 tomatoes, strange enough Issei was there too, his eyes were the same as cosplayer. Oh, the little kitten-like girl is awake, how should we proceed then? This came from the black-haired man. He must have been the person Issei said was a father-like guy. You see, I dislike brats, weak senju and people who mistake me for a woman. At the last comment, he looked scary, but then to Kaneko, was always looking scary. She only uttered one word, a familiar one. Senju, Senjutsu. The black man raised his eyebrow. The clan is not the disciplined child, I have nothing against style, it has its uses. He looked over to Issei and asked, should we ask her to talk, make her talk, interrogate her to talk or Tsukiyomi? Issei just said, why don't we erase her? She fainted from the flying thunder god, meaning she can't be a threat. Madara thought for a moment then said, actually yeah, let's do that, it's your problem until they come inside here. Last Kaneko saw was the freaky red locking with hers and spinning. Her body on the other hand stood up and walked out of the house. Issei could not help but say, let me guess, that's your discussion with the landlord. Madara did not even try to deny it. I have never even said a word to that man. Issei shook his head and watched Kaneko walk down the street. Well, I guess I should take it easy, after all I have a date tomorrow. Madara sighed and put his face in his palm. You should be exactly like me, why does that come to mind? Issei Shaft tilted his head and said, what? I want to know if she can dance, or at least the people with her can. Madara smiled contentedly. Well, if it gets out of hand, you can call me, just survive long enough for me to get there. Issei nodded and said, hey wait, would you have married a woman if she was as strong as you? Madara looked at him and sighed again. You're only 50 years too young to be asking me that. Issei looked at him and asked, so you'll tell me in 50 years? Madara replied, no, it's just a figure of speech. I thought it sounded good, I did not intend false hope. Issei grumbled as he climbed the stairs to his room. So like you, so dog. Madara had heard that and had to ask, what did you say? Issei knew he was not asking, he was rather daring him to say it again. Issei was not one to take that type of bait. I'll be in my room, you can do what creep stuff you do when I am not here. Madara scoffed at this and said, I either play shogi with my wood clone or play video games against it, needless to say I win. Issei sighed and closed his door, playing games with himself, that has to be the weirdest thing ever. Pulling out a book, Issei began to doodle in it. Actually all he did was draw symbols and names of dot. Well, I wonder what a date is like, also why the hell does Madara want me to turn out like? He recalled the memory of the freak with 3 eyes, or the sage of 6 paths as Madara called him. Aw man, can't he just take Madara away or change his attitude? I mean, I have to live with that guy. His only comfort was that Madara couldn't read his thoughts. Then it hit him. Maybe he just does not say he can. But then he remembered that Madara was not a humble man. He also recalled that Madara had wanted him to use the Sharingan 24/7. He told him he liked walking looking normal, not attracting attention. Madara had to take into account that Issei went out a lot more than he did. The only time he did leave the house was when he had to hypnotize someone they owed money. Yawning, Issei came to realize that he had not eaten dinner. Heck, due to these white cell things I don't even need to eat. Turning over, he fell asleep. Issei awoke to see the light seep into his room. Shit, I hate the mornings was the first thought that came to his mind. He heard Madara call out to him. Hey Issei, there is someone at the door for you. Issei got up with a jump. Madara never called him by his birth name, instead called him Izuna or child. He didn't need to get dressed, he had slept in his school clothes. If this is a joke you're pulling, Madara, it is not funny. Issei yelled this as he left his room. Madara replied, have I ever pulled a prank since you've known me, ever? Madara himself was walking back to the living room, leaving a rather good-looking black-haired stern young woman in the doorway. Issei had no idea who she was, he let Madara know that. Madara, I think there has been a mix-up, I have not set eyes on her before. Madara in passing said I know, she said as much. Then who is she and why have you left her at the door? Madara replied she said she didn't need to come in, she is also your student council president or something like that. Issei had no idea why she was here, walking to the door and picking up his bag he asked. There, should I close the door so you can stare at it instead of me? She shook her head. Do you have any idea what time it is? Issei looked around him and said as you can see, there is no clock in this house. An object hit his chest, grabbed it, it was round and made a ticking noise. I took the liberty to purchase you one, care to check the time? He looked down at the clock in dread, it was midday. Looking up sheepishly he said I take it you came to get me? She nodded. Of course you are a scholarship student, care to tell me what time I went to bed? Madara's voice carried through the hallway. He went to bed around 5 in the evening, was fast asleep 3 minutes later. She looked at Issei in disbelief. Do you sleep in when you go to sleep early? Issei knew there was no right answer to that one. So, you want to move, so I can get out the door? She complied and he stepped outside and began to walk to school. She was walking beside him and lecturing him along the way. His mind was on other matters that caused him to only hear some of the words that she was saying. I mean, you are a bright student, some say the brightest, it is not proper for you to behave in such a way. Issei knew that the school must have standards, he also knew she was right in what she said. The old ass must have made sure I slept late. He could just envision Madara casting a genjutsu in him while he slept. You have a duty as an A student to set an example for your younger peers. What was next? Uncle Ben's talk on responsibility. As a result, I will come to your house every day at 7 in the morning to take you to school. Issei nodded and said yeah, do as you see. What? Wait, run that last bit by me again. She looked at him and said so you were only half hearing what I was saying after all. In his mind Issei said shit, she is rather smart, well she is student council president after all. Issei instead sorry I am still a little drowsy, I ask your forgiveness. She nodded her head then said that is understandable, what is not, is why your father did not wake you up. To this Issei said he is not my father, he has never called me son, and when he called me this morning it was the first time in a while that he had ever said my name. She raised her eyebrow and asked, what does he call you then? Issei sighed as they reached the school gates. He calls me Izuna. What's that? He looked at her. That's the name he gave me. She handed him a slip that would explain his absence to his teacher and said, I am Sona Citri by the way, I look forward to seeing your progress in our academy. Taking the slip from her, Issei said my thanks, but you really don't need to do this every day. She shook her head. Oh I will until you can come to class on time. Madara had taught him better to argue with a determined woman. Before he left she said oh by the way I will send for you at lunchtime, do come. Issei nodded and then left. Issei was about 2 classrooms down from his own when a blonde good-looking young man barred his path. Oh you must be Issei, could you come with me? Issei looked at him and said I need to get to my class before I get into more trouble, sorry. But this he lightly stepped past the blonde with little to no effort and made his way to his class. Showing the note to the teacher he sat down and let the rest of the lesson pass by. Though most of his attention was focused at the outside window, he did manage to make some smart remarks and get the answer to random questions right when asked. It came to his attention that this was a very bad move. Not because it pissed off the teachers to no end. But his peers would be whispering about him being a computer or being so smart that he need not look at someone to know their name. They did not know that he could hear them, they did not know that he really wanted to tell them to shut up. As lunch came, a girl named Tsubaki came to the classroom looking for him on behalf of the student council president. He knew he did agree to go see her, so he followed this girl to uphold his word. At that moment, the blonde named Yudo Kiba was reporting to the red-haired Rias. "But he was faster than I had anticipated. Also, he seemed like he was not even trying." Rias looked at him and saw no lie in his eyes. She silently cursed damn it Sona to get to him first. At this, her raven-haired friend Akeno said to Ara, "Ara, not all hope is lost, Rias-sama, we can still go and introduce ourselves to his guardian." Rias shook her head. "No, Sona has this round, but we won't lose the next, I can tell you that." She did not know how, but she had to find a way to at least meet him to find out what sort of person he was. At least when he was not acting. Back with Issei, he was sitting down in an elaborate room with Sona. A chessboard was in front of them. Issei, being who he was, had to ask, "You called me out here for a game?" She nodded and said, "Yes, your test results showed that you have great problem-solving skills." What she did not mention was that they beat even her high score. "Ah, I see, so you want to test them for yourself, do you?" It was a stupid question, Issei knew it, and that is why he asked it. "I did," she replied and took a seat in front of the board. Issei sat down but thought, what would Madara do? When it came to him, Madara would just use the Sharingan on her and leave. Sighing, he thought, why do I even use that guy as a role model? It was a good question, but not one he needed to answer right now. He looked down at the chessboard, he knew he could win. But did he want to was another question. Actually, he did want to win. Madara had taught him to, if you can win, then win, if you can't, find a way. As he moved his first piece, all he could think of was, I hope she does not end up hating me for this. About 5 minutes later, Sona was just staring at the endgame board. She had no idea that he was this skilled in chess as well. Any trap, fork or pincer she had tried had failed. On the other hand, all his traps seemed to be so well placed she could not avoid them. She now looked up at Issei's eyes. She could see that he had not taken this game too seriously. "Just how smart are you?" It was this that made Issei flinch. She figured out, I was not really taking the game as seriously as I was acting. "What brought this one?" Issei said as he raised an eyebrow. Sona in reply said, "You may have acted seriously with me, but you weren't so interested in your victory." Issei knew he had messed up and messed up big with that. Was it that obvious? Sona shook her head and said, "If it were anyone else, you could have fooled them, but I know when an opponent is taking joy in their victory." It was yet another remark that he would have to remember in future. So she doesn't like losing. Well, I do not blame her, no one does. Looking around, he said, "If this was all, I will return to my classroom, thanks for the game." He said this with a smile and left. He did not know that Sona was still thinking about him. "He is rather smart. I hear that he also outdid Ria's night after I left him. Who is he?" The rival's best friend was having similar thoughts at that moment. To think that Sona would be bold enough to invite him, she must have taken an interest in him as well. This was not good for her, she had now lost her only advantage. She looked out the window and saw him walking to the main building. She did not know, but he felt the sting of a stare and looked up to see her. "Oh great, what next? Some kid with spiky hair is going to ask me to duel him in a card game." It just hit him as he was now entering the main building. Isn't that part of school out of bounds at lunch? The rest of the day seemed to pass slowly, as if it was building up to something. Issei did not forget that he had a date after school. I wonder how that is going to go down. Actually, what was all he thought about for the rest of the day. It was not soon enough when the day ended and he began to walk out of school. Issei half expected her not to show, but was proven wrong when he saw her waiting for him. "Ah, you're here," she said, blushing. Issei adopted the nice guy mask and said, "Well, yes, I am." He smiled and began to walk off. "So where do you want to go first?" He asked her this as they were walking away from the school. Well, I wanted to go get some ice cream." Issei checked how much money he had in his wallet and said, "Sure, but don't go getting anything that is too expensive." She smiled, her face full of joy at his words. Making their way to a certain store, they both stood in line and picked the ice cream they wanted. Can I have the dark chocolate duo?" Issei looked at her, not so much into sweet stuff. "Yes, I can also have the cherry red spill." Issei said this, handing over the cash as he took the 2 ice creams. Thank you, Issei-kun." She smiled as she took a lick of her ice cream. Issei noted that the sour flavor did not seem to stop her. Issei himself devoured his ice cream and then looked at Yuma, who was just about halfway through hers. "You sure eat fast, Issei-kun." Issei just said, "I know I do." He looked at her as she finished eating her ice cream and wiping her face. Issei smiled and had to think, I would not mind doing this again. From there they went to a shop and browsed for books and other items that they desired. Issei picked up a visual novel that he liked called Clannad, while Yuma picked up a handbag. They both laughed when they saw what the other was getting and paid for it at the counter. Laughing together, they went to the arcade next and decided to play games together. At first they played PvP, but Yuma did not seem very good at this, so they decided to play on a team against bots. Issei would have come to this arcade in his free time. So some of the workers who knew him were surprised to see he had someone with him. Many of them made love heart symbols at Issei or gave him a wink that he would rather not know about. Yuma herself seemed to be enjoying the arcade, it forced a thought. Has she never been to the arcade before? Issei did not bother to have that answered, for the first time in a long time he was having fun like a normal person. If Madara could see me, he would sigh and close his eyes, then walk away. He was right about what Madara would do if he had been watching. But as he thought about this, Madara was playing shogi against a summon. Seeing that Yuma was slowly growing tired of the arcade, he asked, "So where do you want to go next? But it might have to be the last place for today." She smiled at him and said, "Can you take me to the park? I would like to walk at dusk with you." Issei said sure thing, so they began to leave the arcade, much to the disappointment of the workers. As they were making their way to the park, Issei just had to ask, "So what type of parents do you have, if you don't mind me asking you?" She smiled and shook her head. "I don't, my mother is an alright woman and I would do anything to gain my father's approval." Saying that, Issei had to think daddy complex. She looked at him and pouted, "No, it is not like that, I don't see you like him." Issei was able to sigh in relief. "Well, sorry about thinking that." She shook her head and said, "It's alright, to me it does not hold too much annoyance." Issei took a mental note, her tone and manner seemed to change with her last few words. "Sorry, I must have come out wrong, can I ask what your parents like?" At this, Issei sighed and said, "I really can't remember, there is like a mental block, I can remember them dying, but that is all." As they continued to walk, they drew closer to the park. "Oh, I am sorry for bringing up such things then." Issei looked at her and shook his head. "No worries, I can't let the past define me in the future now." She smiled at this as he smiled back at her. "So, you are the type of person who looks forward now?" Issei shook his head again and said, "No, I just can't look that far back." To this, Yuma replied with a no. Then she fell silent again. Issei smiled as he looked up at the moon, he had really enjoyed his time here with Yuma. Looking at her as they entered the park, Issei for the first time saw that she really was beautiful. He was glad to have accepted going out with her. "Say Yuma, this was really fun, could we maybe do this again in the future sometime?" Yuma did not reply, but she looked up at the sky and asked, "Do you like me, Issei-kun?" Issei did not know what had brought this one, so he said, "Well, from what I know of you, yes, I like you, you are a nice girl." She smiled and turned to him and said, "What is it that you like most about me?" Issei did not have to think long about it. "Well, I guess it is you, the way you walk, speak, play, read, I like it all." Why? She looked at him and said, "I really thought you would say my body." To this, Issei had to reply, "I was thought to look for more than that." She looked at him and asked, "By who?" To this he said, "The man who has raised me." She looked at him quizzically and asked, "Who would he be, your uncle?" To this, Issei shook his head. "We are related, but not that way, why do you want to know about him?" She now stepped up to the fountain that was in front of them in the park. The moonlight seemed to shine within the water like silver. "Issei-kun, I have to ask you, will you do anything for me?" To this, all he could reply was, "Yes, why do you ask?" To this she said, "Oh, I just wish to know, that is all." Okay, that was a little weird, but the rest of the date had been nice. "Say Issei, could you do one more thing for me tonight?" Issei raised his eyebrow and asked, "What is that?" She turned and smiled at him, the shadow facing the moon, her face looked as if it was shining on its own. "Dear Issei, if you could do so, could you please die for me?" Issei had no idea where that one came from, but here suddenly felt a massive amount of bloodlust and killing intent. Leaping back from her, he saw her clothing transform into something far more seductive. He also saw she had grown a pair of black wings. He only noticed it now, but there was a hole in his side. "Shit," he said as he fell to the ground. He had let his guard down the entire date and was now paying the price. But then again, his entire torso was not made up of human cells. He managed to get back on his feet and said, "So it was all building up to this?" His tone was filled with anger and rage at the betrayal he felt. Yuma now looked at him in shock, he should have died from that attack or been left dying at least. He was so furious that his Sharingan was not active. Yuma had no idea why his eyes turned red and was about to form another spear of light to throw at him. Seeing that she was about to attack, Issei made 4 hand signs and said, "Great Fire Destruction Jutsu." Saying this as he blew out, a massive wave of flame appeared from his mouth directed at Yuma. She managed to avoid it, barely burning her wings. In the same instant, Issei jumped up. His eyes locked with her and in an instant she was trapped in his Tsukiyomi. Yuma found herself in some sort of red world. She was strapped to a table and Issei was standing above her. He was holding a thin sword, his eyes looked menacing. She was about to ask him for mercy, but he spoke first. "I will slice you with the sword for 96 hours. Placing the sword horizontally on her arm, he slowly cut her open. She screamed in pain and he began to repeat the process. She screamed, unable to speak, unable to cry for mercy, she only knew pain. Issei continued to do this to her until she fainted. Slowly she opened her eyes and turned her head. She saw herself, not a body of herself, cut up and left bleeding on another table. Only her face on the other body was intact. The pain came into her neck and she tried to scream but could not. Issei was now slicing this body of hers up, but there was something wrong. There were two Isseis. We will slice you with our swords for 96 hours. The pain she felt was beyond anything she had known. It was as if the blades were cutting both her body and her spirit. Issei was looming over her. He bent down and whispered into her ear. I wonder which will die first, your body or your spirit. He then again took his sword and began to slice her. This time it was her wing that he was carving up. She now began to scream in pain. She could see the wits in mid the sky of red rising. It had only been one day. She now felt the pain of both bodies and fainted again. Issei continued to mercilessly slice her body, but was always leaving the head intact. He would keep his word and continue this for 96 hours. She now woke again, but this time she could see countless cut-up bodies of her, each with an Issei standing above them. Issei was looming over her again and said, two suns have set, are you ready? At this all the Isseis there were turned in a horrifying unison and turned to face her. All of them stepped forward with their blades and slowly placed it gently upon the body. All in a vicious slice, they all cut her open. If you wish to kill me you should have said so from the start. All of them said this as one as they continued to slice her. She fainted for the third time. When she woke up Issei was looming over her again, the last sun was setting. In her mind she had a hope that this nightmare would be over. I have to give you my congratulations. She looked up at him hopefully as he said, you have exactly 95 hours, 59 minutes and 59 seconds to go. Her eyes widened. She had no idea how little time could have passed. It had been 4 days. Tsukiyomi, I control time and space here. She now noticed that uncountable blades were above her. You brought this on yourself. You thought I was just a normal pathetic person. You were wrong. I know who you are, Rainer. Your other bodies told me everything. In her mind she thought, if he knows then why does he continue with this? I can also hear your thoughts in this world. He said this as he put his face above hers. You ruined my first happy memory in a long time. Of course I am going to vent my anger upon you. She now had nothing to cling to. She was here in his world now. She had no defense against him. You caused me a great deal of pain on a trust level. I will make you pay for this. The last thing she saw was thousands of swords descending upon her. She screamed and screamed as they made contact with her body. Issei saw that she was broken and dispelled his Tsukiyomi. The whole second was all it had taken him to break her and steal the information from her mind. He was still in a very bad mood. This Sharingan still actively showed him that there were two people watching him turning in their direction, he said. One now if you value your lives, or you will meet the same end as she did. Now all he did was wait for them to respond to him. Thanks for watching this video. Part 1 is over. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. And also check out the playlist that I have created and enjoy. Link is in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.